All right, let's jump right into it. We've got Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gualtieri on the show. Welcome back, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. And yes, I guess we'll start with what a challenging year we had last year, and just want to talk to you about what you've done with your leadership and maybe some of the lessons you guys have learned over there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's definitely been a significant experience over the last year. Of course, it started out with all the COVID challenges, and then after the George Floyd incident, you start putting it all together, and it was a long, as they say, a long hot summer. And some of the things I think we learned is how important it is to effectively communicate with the public, and that there be clear lines of communication and clear direction, that everybody understand what the expectations are. I think that was, and still remains to a degree, a problem with some of the COVID restrictions is that people want to do what is required of them, what's necessary to stay safe, but it has to be clearly communicated. And I think that we ran into that a little bit, especially early on, where some of the things that were out there weren't as clear as they needed to be. Of course, with the policing issues and making sure that law enforcement is acting the way the community expects us to act, and again, communication. I think one of the things we found there was a lot of the things that were being called for in the Tampa Bay area were already being done, and that we already had those things in place. And it was illuminating to me that we needed to communicate better. We needed to let people know, and still do, about the initiative. So, as an example, is people are calling for these, no-knock search warrants. Well, they're already prohibited. Policies about not shooting at cars. Well, we have had those type of policies for years. Doing more with mental health. Well, we started a mental health unit here in the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office back in 2016. So you can go on and on about all these things, and when I would talk to people about it, they'd say, they were calling for it, they'd say, well, I didn't know that. Well, I didn't know that. So,
exactly.
Again, communication is important. I think those are some of the things that we learned.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all great topics, and mental health and the George Floyd incident, of course. And I think it's misinformation, too, nowadays. You see a lot of misinformation, whether it's social or even, some of the major, news organizations. I think that causes challenges for law enforcement as well. And I think I mentioned to you last time, my cousin's actually sheriff down in Hendry County, mm-hmm. and we definitely back the blue, we back the sheriff's departments, and it's such a challenging time. Have you seen more people trying to get into law enforcement, or has those numbers subsided?
No, we really haven't seen a significant downturn, really, here. We haven't. But, now we're getting people applying from other places where the situations are more challenging, people from out of state.
Sure.
But, we still get, for any group that we hire, generally when we hire in groups of about 20. And we probably, for each group or class, if you will, we probably get 400 or 500 applicants.
Wow.
So it's we get a lot of applicants. Now, some of those people, are not the type of people we're looking for sometimes for a variety of reasons, but we still get applicants.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's good. So, and you see, any comment on some of the stuff happening across the country in different departments? I know we've heard, sometimes there's a mask mandate, and then you've seen other sheriff's departments saying, well, we're not going to enforce that. Any comment or ideas about that?
Well, as far as the mask mandate goes, I think it's a tough situation, and again, it goes back to communication. Early on in the pandemic, is that the messaging was that, no need to wear masks, don't wear masks, hard to get. There wasn't a call for it. Then all of a sudden, they pivoted on a dime, and oh my God, everybody should wear masks. Well, the problem in that transition was the philosophy change and the rationale change behind it, but they didn't communicate that. So that led to people are confused, and then it becomes, well, why would I do this when you told me before not to do it? And then it became, well, you're not doing it, we're telling you to do it, so somebody's got to enforce it, and they try and get law enforcement to do it, where I don't think it's a good idea for law enforcement to be involved in that. And what we saw here in Pinellas was, by and large, the majority of people are cooperating,
right.
And most of the people are compliant. You're never going to have perfect. Perfect doesn't exist anyplace. And, we keep an eye on it, but I can tell you that, over the last 2 months or so, after we told people that we saw a lot of noncompliance and asked them to step up, and we explained it better. We've been checking restaurants and bars every week. We check probably about 250 where the deputies are actually going in, checking, keeping an eye on it. But we only see noncompliance at maybe around 6-7%.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And so people are doing. We don't see a problem in the stores, shopping, like the big box stores or grocery stores or other businesses. So
Right.
I think people get it. In other places, they're taking a different approach where they are issuing citations and enforcing it that way. But we have not done that here at all, and I don't intend to do that.
Yeah, I think that's where the line should be. It's people, and especially that what you just mentioned started with the Fauci flip flop. No mask, and then yes, we do need masks. And
Right.
by the way, if you just joined us, we're talking with Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gualtieri here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. I'm your host, Brandon Rhymes, and on this whole topic, you see different celebrities kind of weighing in on different things happening, and I like what Denzel Washington's kind of seen, at least what I've seen on some of his videos that he would release. It says that it's more about the home, it's more about the family. A lot of the parents are missing, the father figures are missing, so that we're talking about single parent homes where you find a lot of the problems when you have a interaction with law enforcement.
No, undoubtedly, is that so much of what the criminal justice system and what law enforcement ends up dealing with is a result of, at its core, what causes it are socioeconomic issues. And then that results in a whole variety of circumstances. The people we come in contact with, unfortunately, sometimes we come in contact with just some bad people. They're just people out there that just do bad things. But the majority of it is people who, because of a variety of situations, are not bad people. They may have done something wrong.
Right.
But when you're trying to figure out the why to prevent it from happening again, we keep coming back time and time again to largely socioeconomic issues. And as it relates to young people, it's the lack of good role models and guidance. And again, sometimes it's economics. It's the whole variety of those circumstances where these young kids are just in a tough situation because they only have a limited caregiver, which sometimes is not a mom or a dad.
Yep.
Sometimes a grandparent, or kids are in foster care or whatever it is, and people are stepping up and trying to help.
Yep.
But it's tough. It's very tough. So what it comes down to at the end, really, time and time again, is the cause, and then raises the question, what do you do about it, is largely driven by socioeconomic issues, whether it's the schools. Remember the Tampa Bay Times did that big series now going back, a year and a half, 2 years ago, about the failure factories in the schools in St. Petersburg. What's the cause of that? It gets back to socioeconomic issues,
Exactly.
and those are the areas. So and that, of course, trickles over into what we do as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, Sheriff, right on point. I agree wholeheartedly on that. It starts in the home. It starts in the morals, the ethics, the values that you instill in these young folks, and that's why growing up playing Pop Warner football, Little League baseball, all those things really helped mold my character and a lot of our friends in the way that we kind of grew up, playing sports, being involved in the community. And on that note, my wife and I are also looking into. We're about to bring in a foster child, and trying to do what we can do, and building a life for a young man or woman, picking 0 to 4 years, so we can kind of teach them the way that we would like them to be taught. But yeah, so the community involvement, that leads us to our next topic. I would love to talk about community involvement. What can we do as citizens, as taxpayers? How can we contribute and help?
Well, there's a lot of tangible things, but I would say, one of the things is to become knowledgeable. And one of the things that is a challenge is when people form opinions, have views that are media-driven, quite frankly,
Exactly.
because a lot of it is sound bites and is not necessarily accurate. I think that that's something that everybody should have a responsibility to do is to become knowledgeable in the facts and flush everything out before they form opinions about certain things, and that is important. And it becomes a point of frustration for me as we're dealing with things, and things are put out in a certain way, and then you're talking to community groups, and people have these views, but it's all based on a false narrative. So I think that is something that really incumbent on everybody to be as knowledgeable as you can, understand that people have lives and they have go about their businesses on a daily basis. But across the board is just as far as government's concerned, law enforcement's concerned, public affairs are concerned, is be knowledgeable with the facts. On a more tangible way. There's a lot of opportunities to get involved and to give back. You talk about these kids, and whether it's mentoring programs, and there's a whole lot of them out there. There's corporate mentoring programs. One that has been very effective is Raymond James has this program. It's called Lunch Pals, and they partner with a lot of businesses where people are able to mentor these kids. It's like 1 hour. Periodically where they go in and have lunch with these kids. I mean, those are little things that are huge things, and they do make a difference. Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and all these other organizations that are out there where people can get involved. So there's ways, again, balanced against everybody's also got to take care of their own affairs and their own lives, and their own kids, and everything else. So it's a balancing act, but there's ways to get involved in the community.
That's right. Yeah, and a lot of great churches around the area as well. That's another great point. A lot of churches across the country were shut down and then they would allow other businesses to be open. Luckily, we didn't see that. I think we got a great governor here, and Ron DeSantis, and just recently. I want to talk a little bit about big tech, and I think it gets at the point of what you made about facts. There's two separate sets of facts these days, it seems, and big tech is really causing some of that misinformation, and censoring, of course, is happening for the first time we've seen. Any comment on big tech and what I like about what Ron DeSantis has done here, our governor? I saw that press conference the other day. $100,000 daily fine if they censor someone that's running for political office. Yeah.
Well, free speech is very important, but facts are very important too. And I think that, unfortunately, I think that social media is unquestionably here to stay. It's part of our fabric. It's not going anywhere, whatever the various platforms are. But it's also dangerous because it perpetuates misinformation, and people can get on and see whatever they want unchecked. And so that's not good. And that people need to remember that it needs to be filtered, it needs to be verified, and like I said again, it causes frustration because we end up having to chase our tail. Because somebody put something out on social media, and then it becomes fact. It becomes the rumor mill, which becomes perception's reality. And where do they get the perceptions? They get it off of something that anybody can post whatever they want, and then it takes off on social media. And before you know it, is that did you know and did you hear? And oh my God, this is terrible. In reality, it has never happened.
Exactly.
So that's it's not good. But it's the world we live in today, and it affects the kids too. And so many things are out there on social media that these young people are influenced by at a young age. That again is not healthy sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. And we work with Florida Firearms Academy. Thomas King's the owner, and he comes in and we talk about gun safety and concealed carry, and the constant attack on the Second Amendment. Some of the themes that come from when he's appearing on the show is that there's off-duty deputies, people coming in. I think the point is like you're not going to see all the crime that's happening on Bay News 9 or whatever news channel. There's a lot of stuff that happens. You got gang activity here in the area, so kind of back to that point of how can people protect themselves? What do we need to look out for as citizens?
Well, law enforcement is limited, as far as where we could be. We can't be everywhere all the time. And so, people need to be aware of their surroundings, help by being our eyes and ears, report things. But I also, support everybody protecting themselves as well, because the reality is that when bad things happen, they tend to happen very quickly. They end very quickly, and majority of the time the cops aren't there until after it's over with. So, I think it's important that when people are so inclined, that they take those necessary steps to protect themselves. And if it means being a concealed carry permit holder, if it means having firearms in your house, more power to you. But just do it in a responsible way and learn how to do it effectively. And I think that people also have to, to a certain degree, be responsible for themselves and take care of themselves and their families. Because as much as we try and we'd love to be everywhere all the time, that isn't going to happen.
Yeah, just impossible. And what about school safety? Wanted to ask you, we got about a minute left here. Just school safety, got deputies on site. What's the latest update there?
Well, it's a balancing act with COVID. Like in the Pinellas County schools, there's about 100,000 kids in the Pinellas County schools. Probably there's a little bit more probably now than, more than half that are probably back in the schools, and the other half are probably still on distance learning. So it's a very different environment with the drills and with the active assailant response protocols, et cetera. It's still there and it's still important. But we're having to balance some of that with also not exposing these kids to, COVID dangers by some of the contacts. So there's still work to be done. I think that we're making progress with school safety. I can tell you right now is the schools in Florida are safer today than they were in 2018. Where we're pushing up here on February 14th, 3 years of the anniversary of the Stoneman Douglas shooting. Yeah. And I can tell you that based on the work of the Stoneman Douglas Commission that I chair and the laws that have come out of the legislature and the efforts of the school districts and the Department of Education, is the schools are safer today than they were in 2018. So that's good, but there's still work to be done.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for all you're doing, keeping us safe out here. We greatly appreciate you. We appreciate all your deputies, the men and women serving our community, and we'd love to have you back again on the show. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Glad to do it anytime.
All righty. Have a good day. Thanks so much. All right. That's Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gualtieri on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Great stuff. Community involvement. Lots of ways that you can be involved here. And it's kind of like our random act of kindness. We always say do something kind, get involved. Lots of ways. He mentioned a couple of great organizations and groups. Ray J has the Lunch Pals he talked about, the Big Brother, Big Sisters. Lots of great ways you can be involved in the community. So stay with us when we come back. Diane Vance, Fairway Independent Mortgage. We're going to talk about real estate mortgage, what's happening with the stock market, the real estate market. We're going to dive deep on that. Stay with us right here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, and we'll see you at consumerqb.com.
Thanks for